Welcome, everybody. We're here to take note of the fact that journalism is alive and well and feisty, especially at the New York Times.
I spent 25 years being a reporter, swearing I would never be an editor. I didn't want to work at a desk. I didn't want to be a boss or a manager. But you know, it's one thing to say that in theory you don't want to be an editor. It's another matter when somebody asks, do you want to be the foreign editor of the New York Times? That was a hard thing to say no to. The last 8 years, until September, I was the executive editor during a time of considerable turmoil in our industry, and particularly turmoil at our paper, where I guess I see my main responsibilities as having been not letting the newsroom be cut to smithereens, the way so many of our other newspapers, news organizations have been. To just to make sure that whatever happened in terms of a recession and advertising problems, we would still have a large foreign staff, a large culture staff, a large national reporting staff, because if we lost that, we basically would not be living up to the promise that we make to our readers. And the other thing was to make our newsroom fully integrated, digital and print.
The old newspaper model is dying.
Instead of having people, reporters and editors, think of the website as a sort of afterthought. Mm-hmm. Okay, now I've done my story. Oh yes, we should put it on the web. But to think of the website as, equally important to their jobs. I've got it as an arena of competition, as a chance to reach. We have 40-some million visitors every month to the website, so all of our growth in audience is online, and also it's a place to tell stories in a different way. There is a kind of fundamental craft that is not all that different from when I started out, and what that is basically a way of dealing with information. It's a set of skills that include acquiring information, which you may do by going out and witnessing events, or you may do by studying databases online, or you may do by persuading people to tell you secrets that they shouldn't tell you. But the first thing is you have to kind of get the information. Then you have to know how to test the information to find out if it's true, if it's meaningful, if your source is biased or objective or has a hidden agenda. So you have to kind of truth test the information. Then you have to learn how to analyze it. You have to look for patterns. You have to look for what does this information actually mean? What does it tell me? And then you have to figure out a way to take all that processed information and deliver it to people in a way that's clear and fair and, you hope, entertaining or accessible in some way so that people will want to read it. But even if I'm wrong, and even if journalism dies or shrivels to such a small degree that there are no jobs in journalism, if you can do those things, you can get jobs in a lot of different places. I mean, business, the law, medicine. How often do you run across somebody in a profession who may be very smart about the economics of their business, or very smart about the law, or very smart about science, but don't know how to speak to somebody that isn't also in their line of work? All the time, I would say. In the mythical editor's school, they don't teach you that you're going to have things like that happen. I've had several kidnappings on my watch. I've had 3 people killed, 2 in Iraq and 1 in Afghanistan, possibly 1 in Libya. Or there's a driver who has never yet been accounted for, the driver of those 4 in Libya. We strongly suspect that he was killed in the crossfire, but we don't really know.
The case of Julian Assange gets more bizarre by the hour.
So this is about WikiLeaks, which is a website. They didn't have to drop this off on the front step of NBC News or the New York Times. They just dropped it off on YouTube and waited for everybody else to find it.
Is WikiLeaks a kind of journalism? I try to be a little humble about saying who is a journalist and who isn't a journalist. I mean, you know, if Julian Assange wants to call himself a journalist, be my guest.
We released 400,000 classified documents, the most...
I've said on a couple of occasions that the price you pay for getting Julian Assange angry with you is that you are doomed to spend eternity answering questions about WikiLeaks. And I have been, I think, on 6 panel discussions and have done interviews for 3 documentaries about WikiLeaks, all of them trying to figure out whether WikiLeaks changed life as we know it, changed journalism, changed diplomacy. I think the answer is probably not as much as people think.
So we're asking a question just about you to further confirm your reliability. What was wrong with that? So
far, every important story that you've read out of WikiLeaks came from one big leak. They should call it WikiLeak because there's only been that one massive data dump. Thank you all for your patience, and I wish you the best.